Good morning. My name is Chu. The student number is 50631, and today I'm going to present the thesis exhibition for my social work degree. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of the country. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Muwinina and Palawa people of the Nipaluna Nation, and I pay my respect to elders, past, present, and emerging. So for today, the artifacts for the whole social work journey I'm using is this possum nest that I developed as a sample to teach in the green crochet class at Kickstart Arts. This green crochet community project I also found it at the very beginning of this social work degree as a way for me to learn and understand as well as contribute to the community during the journey of a social work. I named it Green Crochet because I'm inspired by the green social work theories in which we believe that there is no social justice and human rights could be achieved in a dying world. And therefore, it aligned with my personal value and belief system that every lives matter. And we produce shelters like bird nest and possum nest and donate to organizations around Tasmania like Bonarong Terrace or sent over to mainlands during bushfire to help them and local carers to care for rescued animals because of bushfire road accidents. And therefore, it holds dear to the journey of why I start social work and why do I started this particular possum nest. And during the class that I teach as well, I think there is a very good metaphor to the social work. This is a using skein of yarns in which the beginning end start from outside. And therefore, with this way of learning and running this kind of skein, the whole yarn will collapse when it comes to the core. However, in the class that I teach in green crochet, I always encourage people to try to find the yarns from within, like this one. And therefore, the yarn and skein could remain the shapes until the very last miles. And I think this metaphor depicts perfectly the way that I align my value system with social work, that I believe everything starts from the heart, from the core. And that's how I would be able to sustain with a profession to the very, I don't know, probably another 30 years. Then the next point I'd like to make is on how I start this nest. So usually this kind of patterns will produced by one of the creators, and they will write exactly what kind of yarns you have to buy, what kind of hooks and how many rows and stitch you have to start from the center and grow the yarns and the nest onwards, and this way or that way. I study every single word in that patterns. I understand it very carefully. However, I will combine it into my own personal practice and skill, and I do it my way. I think that represents for how I practice social work as well. Because this is not my very first career. I used to be a marketer for 10 years. And then I studied art therapy in Singapore before the third attempt to be in a social work in Australia. Therefore, I feel like every of us will have a unique way of doing. And I embrace my strength and all the previous knowledge in order to recognize and embrace strength from all the clients and people I work with. Definitely, I'm a very strength-based person. And that's exactly how I come up with this nest. So the yarns itself, I convinced South Hobart Tip Shop. I present the concept of green crochet, and with the endorsement of Kickstarters, and I get free voucher from South Hobart Tip Shops to give me free yarns, and the whole nest itself is free of cost. I run the green crochet class at the Kickstart Arts, and I teach more people. I teach for free, so people from all walks of life can come into the circle, and they pick up crochet for a good cause. So imagine if I only produce the nets myself, I can only produce a few, but because I teach up to now already have 75 members, so they gain the crochet skill and they know exactly how to do, and they can produce many more nests in the future and wherever they are, even for the next generations. I believe that is a way that I make change from a micro level, and the ripple will continue to grow into meso and macro. Talking about how to run the class, I definitely a feminist leadership, and I demonstrated consistently through all the placement in Green Crochet Club as well. I do not have any target, but rather I go with the flow. I don't have any targets number of how many nests I will produce or how many people I will teach within 10 weeks, but rather I welcome everyone come and go at their own pace. I let them do other things in the club as well. I teach crochet, but if they want to knit, they're welcome. It's more about a socialization, and we together doing a good cause. I think that is very important. A concrete example I can draw from the second placement with Colony 47, specifically at Reconnect. So I worked as a youth and family counselor, in which majority of the history of the program is using CBT to counsel for young people. I come in the same pathway. However, I have a privilege to practice and marry the concept of art therapy and social work in one occasion. I manage several individual cases, and one of the case, there is a young girl. She's 12 years old, and she has a specific interest in arts, and therefore every time I come to see her, I introduce a little bit of art practice as ice breaking and building rapport with her. This girl, she has difficulties connecting with her mom because of their parents' divorce, and she could not communicate effectively her wishes and emotions with her mom. And during the work with her, I try to introduce the service that within Reconnect, that we can also work with her mom to help her build a bridge between the two persons. However, this girl completely reject the idea and saying, no, I'm fine, I don't want that. So I let her be, and we stopped that kind of conversation over there. Instead, we play with clay. And that day I introduced the air dry clay. I facilitate the session and tell her all the instruction how to handle clay effectively, that you should not pour too much water. She was very excited, and therefore she mostly forgot all the knowledge that I tried to tell her, and she had too much water. It's become super messy, and she already give up. Then only at that time I give her a different kind of clay, which is non-messy, because I know the material. I shift her to the other side of the table and let her play at her own pace. And when I clean up this air dry clay area, which I know exactly what to do because I know the materials and I have all the skills, then I bring up the conversation about, look, this is the dynamics of the family. It could be messy, but we are trained counselor, and we have the skill to build a bridge between the person effectively. And with your consent, I can help you to communicate your wish with your mom. And that's when the girl opened up and she gave me the consent, and we started to discuss a strategy on how and what kind of topics she wants me to help into her relationship. And by the end of my placement, I would call it achievement, that they have a very improved bonding, and the mom even expressed the interest of having her to stay with the mom for full time instead of staying with dad. So I think definitely that demonstrate my decolonization in practice social work by introducing arts in social work and embrace the strength of the client. Lastly, about myself, this is an unfinished nest, as I'm also an emerging social work. It will forever growing, and I still have bits to improve. And yes, I will continue to learn and explore the concept of arts in social work practice. So wish me luck and thank you very much. Bye-bye.